Okay. We're going to go ahead and kick this off. Welcome to, let me get rid of all this junk here that. Okay. All right. So welcome everybody. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So why are we here today? We're here to talk about how to pull comps and estimate home values to make competitive offers. How many of you have made an offer and lost the deal to another investor that made a better offer than you? Anybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So do you have any idea why you lost the offer? Did you have trouble finding comps? Did you have trouble reading comps? Anybody have any idea why they lost the deal?
I think for us, we were just bidding in a hot market.
In today's market, that could very well be, right? Hot market could be the challenge. And you've got to understand what's going on in the market. And there's a lot of pieces to this topic today. How to be more competitive with your bids, because it's not just about the numbers that you see in these comps, right? It's about your exit strategy. It's about the rehab costs that you are going to put into the home. How much can you get it done for? How quickly can you get it done for? Or how quickly can you get it done? And then, how quick can you get it sold and at what price? So, in my opinion, this topic is really multifaceted, where, it has to do with comps, your interpretation of comps, your ability to pull comps and understand them. It has to do with accurate repair estimates and cost-effective repairs and not over rehabbing. And it has to do with your marketing machine and your exit strategy and how well you can comp it, and whether you're selling it on your own or selling it with a listing agent. Are they the best at what they do? And are they able to get it priced right without overpricing it and get it sold and, negotiated with a buyer and get it closed quickly? So, all of these things come into play when you're talking about making competitive offers. Does everybody agree, or does anybody disagree with that?
Agreed.
So, today we're going to talk about the comps piece of it. We're not talking about marketing to sell. We're not talking about the rehab costs, but all of those do come into play. And it's very important that you have a team, a system, you know, and all that stuff is working together as best as it can. And if you're new, I realize that you may not have all those pieces yet, but coming to these group meetings like this and participating in these calls and listening to the topics that whatever speaker is teaching and meeting the other members in the group that are at those meetings, you know, like this image you see here on my screen here, we had a sponsors day and all the sponsors were up front talking. Get up there and meet those folks and find out how they can help you systemize your business and help you all towards this effort right here, making competitive offers and making offers that get accepted. So does anybody have a deal that they're having a hard time finding comps? Anybody? Okay. Yeah, I didn't have that in the invite, but that is something that, you know, I should have done. We really need to have some I like to have you bring property leads, you know, and we can try and analyze them during the call, but we'll go ahead and we'll get started here. So most of you have probably heard me talk about the need for using real MLS comps. If you're not a realtor, you need to have access to a tool that does pull comps. We recommend Propelio. We get you a discount as a member of the group. And this is a very simple tool. As a matter of fact, a few of the brokerage firms in DFW are actually using Propelio and giving it to their agents because of the information it provides and the ease of using it. So that's why they like Propelio, and that's why I recommend you use it. So we're going to use an example here. Now, this is a house that I had trouble with a few years ago. I'm going to just try this today in our demo here and see if it's still a difficult property to pull. Now, thinking about difficult properties, what could that be? It could be anything that's kind of weird. It could be anything that's in a neighborhood or out in the country where there's not a lot of sales, right? And you would think that today, with it being such a hot market, that you would be able to find recent sold comps on just about anything, but that's not true. I have found a few recently that I was not able to really find good comps. And that presents a challenge to us. And naturally, the first thing you want to do is you want to go to MLS or Propelio and see what you can find there, because that's going to be the most accurate set of comps is what's coming out of MLS. Now, why can't you use the free sites? Anybody on here know why?
Well, Zillow doesn't tell you really what it sells for.
Right, but why is that?
They used to, they made a change.
So the answer that I'm looking for was Texas is what they call a non-disclosure state. And what that means to you in relation to home sales data is that the home sales data is not public information. They can't release it to all these free sites. So when you go into these free sites and they give you a value such as Zillow or we'll just take a look here. When you see on Zillow, this 253.3, that is an estimate. Realtor.com, Redfin, Trulia, Homes.com, they are giving you an estimated home value based on a fancy algorithm that they think is accurate. But if you go out and you pull up this address on all those different free sites, you're going to see multiple different prices, and they're going to be based on that formula. Very few of them are going to be the same. Once in a while, I see something that's similar, but they're different most of the time. And that in itself should tell you that you can't rely on those free sites. Again, it's not real MLS data. It's nothing but a fancy formula that they use to calculate that estimated value. So therefore, you should not use that information. Now, you're going to hear me come back to those here in a little bit. So I'm going to really focus in on this, on MLS comps to kind of show you how important this is. Now, there's going to be times you are not going to find it. You're not going to find the home on Propelio or MLS. You're not going to be able to pull comps. And that makes it very difficult for us to really determine value. So I want to talk about strategy today towards the end on what I do as a backup. Okay, would that be good? Are you all interested in alternatives if you can't find a true MLS number?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, there's going to be times if you, the longer you're in this business, the more you're going to understand what I'm saying is true. You're going to come across this. One particular type of home in particular that I'm thinking of is mobile homes. If you've ever tried to pull mobile home values out in the country, you're going to see that it's very difficult a lot of times to come up with a real a comp that you are really comfortable with. So I don't know if anybody's got a mobile home that they're working on, but if you do, maybe we can talk about it. So in Propelio, all I've done is pulled up this address. This was a property years ago that I was researching and couldn't find comps. Let's see what they have in here today. Now, it's been several years ago, and as you can see here, this property just sold back in 21 now. So let's go see what MLS has for comps on this house. Now, there's certain areas for those that so there's quite a few in here. For those of you that have ever done anything in mineral wells, it's not a booming place. You don't see a whole lot of sales, but it looks like the hot market has changed that a little bit. Now, looking at this, we see that this subdivision is Garden Valley. So looking at the list that of the initial properties proposed here, how many are potential comps?
2. Well, 1.
Yeah, maybe, right? It depends on whether or not they put this in correctly or abbreviated it. So these two are really close. This is the only one for sure, right? That matches Garden Valley. So that's the first thing. I want to back up here though, because what I didn't do is I didn't come up here and narrow down the specific search with our defaults here. So in this particular case, notice that public records or MLS doesn't show you how many bedrooms and bathrooms, and you're going to see that quite often. When I come in here to MLS or to Propelio and I see zeros The first thing I'm going to go do is go look at public records websites, the free stuff. Zillow is usually my go-to. And I see here that the previous listing showed it's a 322, right? So I'm going to use that. I'm going to come back here and I always put in a range. I'm never going to go after a 322 because that makes it too strict. You may end up there in your filters, but initially, aren't we trying to capture similar homes? You know, my definition to a seller about pulling comps is I want to compare a red apple to a red apple, not an apple to an orange. So I want to get as close as I can. I'm going to start with the same subdivision, Garden Valley, and then I'm going to come over here. I know it's a 3-bedroom, so I'm going to do 2 to 4. 3's in the middle. It's a 2-bathroom, so I'm going to do 1 to 3. 2's in the middle. We know it's 2,100 square feet, so I'm going to use typically a 10% up and a 10% down, but there's nothing saying you can't go more. You just have to know what you are looking at once you see the results. So in this case, just for simple math, I could make this say 1,600. And on the high side, I could say 2,400. Okay. Nothing wrong with doing this, but know that when we see the results, we have to look at them and make sure that, you know, if the only comp that shows up is 2,400, that's a little bit bigger than what we like to see. We like to see something really close to this 2,100 square foot. And then it's built in 72. So again, I want to do the same thing. I want to get a range. I don't want to go with just 1972 unless it ends up that we have a ton of comps and they happen to be 1972. Then we can stick to the same age of home. So in this case, I'm going to say, I'm going to round it off and just make it easy. 1970. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to go further back. I'm going to do 1965, and I'm going to do 1977. So again, it's up to you where you start. Just I'm doing this to try and pull in something, and then we can trim it back if we see we have too many comps. Okay. Now, this currently set, the default set on a half-mile range, which I think is really good. And we want as close to 6 months or 3 months even. We'll start with 3 just for giggles and see what it tells us. But then we may have to change this. You know, if it's a really active market, you're going to see something. I'm not sure we're going to see something, though, in the last 3 months. Notice the map changed. And okay, so now we're down to 3 properties, really only 1 for sure. And we don't know if this one is actually the same development or not. I'm going to say for now, we're going to ignore this property because it's in a totally different subdivision. So the first thing I'm going to do, I mean, I can see what the beds and baths and square footage and stuff is here. And so that'll give you an idea if you're pretty close. 1970, we're at a 72 build. That's 1,900 square feet. The house is 2,100. So, you know, these are really close properties. I would ignore the 4-bedroom if I had more 3-2s, but in this case, you know, we may not. We don't know for sure. It puts a question in my mind if this is a totally different subdivision. So I'm going to come in here next and I'm going to look at it. And, you know, first impressions look pretty good. It has grass. It's got freshly stained wood. So that tells me they've probably done something. A must-see. move-in ready, covered back porch, patio, garage conversion, 3-2, large office. So, they're saying nice things, but they didn't say total rehab, well-maintained, none of that stuff, right? So I see here, look at this, 152 days. Remember I said Mineral Wells is not exactly a booming town? 152 days. When you first see that 152 days, what does that tell you? First thought when you see it.
It's overpriced.
Overpriced. Overpriced, absolutely. And the second thing that could be, even though it looks good here, it could be that it's just not really ready to sell, or that which could be contributing to the overprice. It's just too high a price for the condition of the home. So next thing I do, I'm gonna come in here. Naturally, I'm gonna peruse the numbers to make sure that it's a good match, and I think it's pretty darn close. And then I'm just gonna skim through the pictures. First impression on the front looks good, right? So they spent some time and money on fixing it up there. Looks pretty good so far. So I'm just gonna skim through the pictures and see what kind of condition it's in. What do I see here? It's pretty well maintained, but it's not been upgraded, right? Still got Formica countertops, does have a newer faucet and nice mirror and lights. Looks like it's painted well. So, but it's not been upgraded as far as the granite goes. The bedrooms look good. The flooring carpet looks good. Again, still using Formica. Looks like there's no upgrades in the shower. So overall, pretty good shape, but I go back to this 152 days. One, it is Mineral Wells, but and that's probably too high a price for most people. This is kind of strange. I'm not sure what this space is, but an attic pull-down stairway in a living space is kind of strange. So overall, it looks pretty good. So this could be considered a good comp, right? Or no? You see where we're at? 0 solds. I overlooked this too. We're looking at active properties. Nobody caught that, did they? So can we look at these?
I would say yes.
So the answer is yes, you should look, but you don't want to base a decision on active properties, because people can ask whatever people want, right? Doesn't mean they're going to get it. So yeah, I didn't give you a very good example here. The sold non-market right there next to each other. But these 3 properties are all active properties. So by narrowing down these comps using the filters here, that took everything out of the picture. Here you can come look at rentals. There's no rentals either. Okay, which is interesting that it showed up like this. With I know Mineral Wells is a big rental market. I'm surprised there's no rentals. Yes, sir, Otis.
I put one in the chat. I think it was 2317 Woodmont Trail.
Okay.
76133.
All right. We'll take a look at that in just a second. Thank you. So This is a good example, though. So this is still a bit of a difficult problem here to try and comp this house. And part of that is just the market in mineral wells is not booming, even though this house looks pretty good from the outside, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed this before, but once they sell, Zillow takes the pictures off. So the only thing we can see is this front picture. But what would you do now if you're still trying to, you haven't given up, you're trying to find something that sold? What would you do now on Propelio?
Take out your parameters.
Widen the parameters. The first thing I would do is, we have, pretty good range on square footage. I would go back here and start with, and since we found nothing, let's just go out 24 months. Is 24 months a good period? No. It's too far back. But remember, right now, we're trying to find something to start your analysis with. I'm going to widen the range. If this happens to be a big subdivision, a half mile may not be capturing it all. So now we're going to research, refilter it. Okay. So now look what happened. 10 properties showed up as solds, not actives. And that's because of the radius. We're still only getting one, potentially two. Again, I don't know. I suspect this is a different subdivision, but it's probably really close. And this is where, if you wanted to use this subdivision or this comp, you'd want to go make sure you drive that neighborhood and make sure that it's a similar subdivision, similar style home. So let's go look at the first one. Okay, so our house has a one-car garage. This house has an enclosed garage. We got 4 days on the market. 218,000 sold for 1%, 1.7% over asking. So, this was pretty good priced. This 1.7% over could have been closing help. It may not have been an offer above asking. It may have been just the buyers asking for some closing help. We're going to skim through the comments here. Well kept, open layout, great location, 2 living areas. So there's been a lot of upgrades in the kitchen and backyard and an above ground pool. There's not a lot that's really convincing you that there's major updates and stuff. Just had some updates. So we're going to skim through real quick. We're going to just see what it looks like. Kitchen looks pretty good. Probably the best looking part of the house. You can see they did say they did updates in the kitchen. So is this a good comp?
Yes.
I'm going to say yes. The thing you have to remember is there's no garage to this house, whereas the subject property is a 1-car. Let's go look and see what this house looks like. 148 days on the market. And this is, this year. So this is probably overpriced too. 255,000 it sold for. Half acre. Cabinets, granite tops, tile backsplash. Larger living room, wood burn fireplace. Nice size workshop. So it looks neat and clean from the front. Nice corner lot, nice road curb appeal, nice kitchen. So cabinets, kitchen looks pretty good, huh? Bathroom's got some updates. Shower's been updated. Is this a good comp? Even other than this? Nobody wants to say, huh? So I'm gonna say yes. And you know, you can do the same thing here if you're not finding stuff you like. If you're familiar with the area, if you want to go drive the neighborhood, you can go look and see what these prices are. Or not prices, but go see what these homes look like. I'm really curious why so many in this same subdivision. My first guess would be it was probably a single owner that was selling off a bunch of stuff, but without going to look, I don't know. So, but I would use these two. And if we didn't have these two, you could go look at these and see how they compare to your subject property. So you can leave these unchecked, or you can take these right out of the picture and not even have them showing in your printout, because you're gonna want to go print this in order to, you know, present it to your seller if you do that, which I always do. So now we've got something to work with. Now, when did the one thing we didn't do on these, we didn't go in and look at the sale dates, right? So that was just a year ago, and that was this year. So those are good, right?
Yes.
We have the rest of everything is good. We don't like to see no garage. But that's still filtered in and averaged into our ARV here at 265. Now this house, we don't know what it sold for. Let's see, did it capture 3103? I didn't see that. So I'm curious why. Let's see. Oh, I see. It's too far back. That's why it don't show up on MLS in the solds. We can only go back 24 months. Well, that should show up though, right? Wonder why that didn't show up. There must be something in our filter criteria that is preventing that house from showing up in the solds. Okay, so moving on here. So what happens? What do you do? Let's say you don't have, we can't find even these two. What do you do? What would you do? I haven't forgotten you, Otis. What would you do now if you couldn't find any comps on MLS or sufficient comps? Nobody's got an idea? All right. So here's what I would do. I would go to the county records as a starting point. And I would look up this property. And I would see what the tax appraisal district has it valued at. And I would write that down. Okay. The next step is I would go to Zillow. And I would write down what they have for a value. Then I would go to any of the other free sites that you care to use, such as eappraisal.com or Redfin or Trulia, and I would capture all those values that they estimate. And again, you know, y'all know that the tax appraisal district's not accurate either, right? That's their people can go in there and appeal their taxes and lower those tax values. So that may be a number that's not even close to the value. But what I'm trying to show you is a way to get a number to start with. You know, you have to have, for the, especially so for the new folks, as you get more experience in this business, you're going to have a lot better idea of the value of a property, driving the neighborhoods and using information like this and going and comparing it to the other values of the houses around it. But I'm trying, for those of you that don't have a clue where to start, what I'm suggesting is take the tax appraisal district, take the Zillow, the eAppraisal, the realtor.com, the Trulia, the Redfin, write down each of those values, divide it by the number of sites that you checked it on. So if you had 6, you divide by 6 and figure out what the average is of those values. Is that going to be accurate? No.
It'll be
But
close.
I'm trying to get you something to start really putting together an offer with. Okay. Now, then you have to put together some sort of a repair estimate. You know, you have to have some idea of what you think the repairs are going to be. And in order to figure out the Mayo, is there anybody on this call that does not understand what Mayo is? Anybody? Max allowable offer. Does anybody not understand what it means? So when you go and make an offer, you don't want to offer Mayo, right? You want to go in and offer something lower than Mayo. But you want it to be close. The reason you don't want to offer Mayo is that they come back and counter offer. You don't want to be above Mayo when they start doing the counter offer, right? You want to still be below your max allowable offer. Does this make sense to everybody? Is there anybody that doesn't understand what I just said? It's okay to say you don't understand. Okay. So does what I just said about taking these free sites and averaging those numbers, does that make sense as a starting point?
Yes.
Did somebody say something?
I said yes.
Okay. I'm really having a hard time hearing you, Diane. I don't know why.
Sorry.
But anyhow, it's not the way to go make offers. It's not the way to determine value. It's a way to help you come up with something as a starting point. Okay. I would not use one number as a starting point from these free sites. I have seen so many numbers so far out of whack. As a matter of fact, I was just working on an offer here in Weatherford. Tax appraisal district value was 173 or 183. I don't remember which. But Zillow said 602. And this house was a total rehab. So, you know, these sites are really missing it. I don't know how they do this, how they come up with these numbers, but they really, on some occasions, they're really close, but most of the time they're not even close. Okay, so keep that in mind. This is just an alternative way of coming up with something. What I would suggest you do is spend a lot of time right here playing with the filters to try and capture additional properties to pull them in. You're not, you know, you don't want to use something that's 24 months old, but you can use it as a starting point. You don't want to use something that's, you know, 30 years older, but if you don't have anything at all, then that gives you at least something to work with to start with. Okay, so, you know, play with these ranges. There's nothing saying you can't make this 2,600. Again, you're trying to bring in additional properties in the search that you can use. So notice by expanding the square footage, it brings us in another house. And that one, we're talking about 2,100. Remember, all it takes is 1 square foot to be outside of that filter. So, you know, by bumping that up, we brought in another one. We were on 2,400 and this one's 2,442. So this brought us in one more property that, you know, may or may not help you, but playing with those filters, you need to learn how to use those and be sure you understand and remember what went into these numbers and how it compares to your house that you're evaluating. 137 days. Again, mineral wells, it may be priced properly, but mineral wells is not a booming market. Just from this, I can see that they reduced the price. So they were higher to begin with. Pretty nice looking house just from the quick curb appeal shot. Okay, any questions about this house before I go look at Otis's example?
I do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Number one, I noticed that second comp you had pulled. It had a corner lot and a detached shop. How big of a role does that play in something you're trying to compare?
So for me, you know, it's more about sellability more so than value. Now, if it's a really nice shop, then you're going to have to give some value to it. You know, if it's just a small basic shop, no plumbing, no electrical, then I'm not going to give an awful lot of value to it. You might give something to it, but it's not going to be huge. Where you see value add is, you know, the big shops that are insulated, air conditioned, plumbing, electrical, you know, that kind of stuff. That's where you're going to really get some value added. But to me, those things are sellability things. It's kind of like a pool. I don't give a pool a whole lot of value, but in Texas in August, is that pool going to help sell that house?
Yes, sir.
Does that make sense?
It does. Yes, sir.
Now, a realtor is probably going to give you a more specific answer. Do we have any realtors on the call? So a realtor, you know, they're trained more in depth on those items like that and how much that's going to add to or detract from. And, you know, an appraiser If you ever read an appraisal on a house, man, those guys, they really go into detail on what they added, what they subtracted, how much percentage. And so there's a lot of technical detail behind that write-up, but I don't do that.
Understood. And then the other question is, if you can't find any comparables and you have to expand your search through your filters, and the only thing you can find is something relatively comparable, but it's a significant difference in size as far as square footage, could you just calculate like price per square foot and then go off that?
Well, you can use that as a starting point, but I'm here to tell you, if it's significant difference in square footage, it's not going to be a good number for you. The reason for that is, and I've been there, done that, that's why I know. And if you ever go looking at home sales in a particular subdivision and look at a 2,000 square foot home sales on cost per square foot versus the cost per square foot on a 3,500 square foot house. If you try and price that 3,500 square foot house based on the 2,000, you're going to sit on the market forever. It's not a one for one value. It's not a similar price. The larger house that's, significantly larger, same quality, is going to be quite a bit less than per square foot.
Makes sense.
Okay. And I ran into that in my early days, not understanding that. I had a 3,700 square foot house in Marine Creek Estates, if anybody knows where that's at, North Fort Worth.
Yes, sir.
And I had a little trouble getting it sold initially because I didn't realize the difference. And I've seen it. I've had several other houses like that too. A lot of times those big houses, sellers know they're harder to sell and they walk away easier, I guess, because I've had several like that. And it's amazing how much of a difference per square foot it's going to be for that large house versus the smaller house.
Makes sense.
Big difference. So you have to make sure if you're buying that 3,700 square foot house that you're buying that at a much cheaper price. You want to be comparing it's not the best house to have in the neighborhood just because it's the largest. You still want to buy it. Just know you got to buy it right, because your holding time is going to be longer and your rehab costs are going to be considerably more because it's so much bigger.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions before we move on? Okay. Have you already pulled comps on this, Otis?
Yes, but I just wanted to get another check.
Okay, that's what I was hoping to hear you say. Okay, so we have a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1-car garage, 1,200 square foot, built in 1984. That's pretty common over in that area. We're in Wedgemont Addition for the subdivision. And, this is the tax appraisal district info that's coming in here. You got some property specifics here. You got tax assessment info here. And it's got some property details and land details here. And it looks like it has a homestead and seniors exemption on it. Okay, so that automatically tells you that the taxes are going to change when you buy it. So we're going to come up here and we're going to click on run comps. Now we can do the same thing coming here. And by the way, what you're seeing here is is the dashboard that Propelio has. And they call it their CRM. I don't use this, just so you know. I use RealFlow for my CRM. So I document all this stuff in my CRM and not in here. So, and then what I do when I run these comps, I print these comps, I write on them my notes and research, and then I scan them and save them into RealFlow, so I have everything in one place. So now I'm gonna, oh, notice here, last sale date was May of 17. So this is just over 6 years that they've been in this house. So you can see there's a lot of info here at a very quick glance. And I think that's one of the reasons why the brokers and realtors are liking this tool. So now when you first click run those comps, you know, it's giving you everything that's sold, but none of it's filtered. Okay. So remember, these are going to be all over the map on sizes, ages. It's going to be everything that's sold. That's why you want to make sure and don't make the mistake like I did the first time here. And I skipped, you know, setting up the filters for our particular criteria. So since this place is a 2-bedroom, I'm not going to search on a 1-bedroom. There probably isn't any in here, but I'm going to do a 2 and I'm going to do a 3. I'm going to do a 1 bath and I'm going to do a 3 bath. I'm going to do a, since the square footage is 1,200, I'm going to do 1,000. And I'm going to do a 1,400. And then year built, 1984. So I'm going to do 1979. I normally will do 5 years. Again, you know, in this area, we'll probably find quite a few comps. So there's not a reason to use a larger range. And remember, we can always come back and change this if we need to. Okay. And then we want to stay a half mile. And we want to be close to recent. You know, you can play with this, but the last 6 months should have generated some sales in this neighborhood. So we're going to click search. Does everybody understand what I'm doing with the filters to make sure you're getting a range of properties? If you don't get what you want, come back up here and widen these ranges. Now, what do you do if you get 30 solds? Is 30 solds a good thing?
Yes. A lot of comps.
Yes, but what you're probably going to want to do is come back here and tighten your ranges. How did I skip that? I must have fat fingered that one. 1989. Okay. Let me hit search again. But so the point is, if you had a big range, you're going to want to come back in and narrow the range down, because remember, you want as close to a red apple as possible. You want as close to that Woodmont addition, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1-car garage, 1,211 square feet, built in 84. You want as close to that as possible. So if you got 30 solds in your first check, come back here and tighten up the ranges a little bit, so it's more specific to matching your house. So notice that when I left this unlimited year built, it drug in a bunch of stuff that was newer. And when we tightened it up, we're down to 3 solds, and we're in Woodmont Edition, and we have 2 here. So let's go see what those 2 are. I would say for now, I'm going to ignore that one because it's outside the subdivision. So sold quick, probably was priced well. Beautiful remodeled bathrooms, new paint, AC, upgraded kitchen. So those are good things to hear. Pretty good looking, huh? So this is a pretty good property. It is a 3-bedroom, not 2. 2-bathroom, a little bit bigger square footage, but it's still, in my opinion, is a good comp. So I'm going to check yes. This one's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, good square footage, sold in 3 days. Updated, bright, modern, stainless steel appliances, quartz, freshly painted. So, you know, the words they're using is good. Curb appeal is okay. It's nothing special, but it looks fresh. Looks good. I don't like the white tornado effect, but that's what some people do. What do you think? Is this a good comp? Yes, no? What did you come up with, Otis, for an ARV on this property?
200.
Okay. You ready to see what Propelio says it is?
Yes. Oh, I was way low.
So what did you use to estimate your value?
2 bedrooms, 2 baths on the same street that had sold within the past year.
Okay.
And so the average was about 200,000 on those.
And where did you get that info?
I used my software program Deal Machine and just looked up the solds in the area. And so that's how I came up with it.
Okay.
But I didn't use any 3s because that's just, you know, the square footage is bigger. It's a double car garage. Those things just didn't match. So like you were saying, just trying to do apples to apples, I was trying to do same square footage, about 1,200 square feet. No, I think it's more like 1,100 square feet, 2 bedroom, 2 bath, 1 car garage.
So
go ahead.
yeah, so you know, I would use these, but that doesn't mean I would use that number. I would come back here, like you said, you're going to have to deduct for the 2-bedroom, or I mean, the 2-car garage, because you don't have a 2-car garage. So that number is what it is based on, and this is using the square footage price. And you can, I don't like the average price because you could have a large square footage difference there. But that square footage price, you know, is again based on these. You would want to lower the number because of the lack of that second garage. And you have to base it on, you know, this dollars per square foot times what your property is, the 1,211 square foot. So these, you know, this is not, you know, doing the comps is not an exact science. It's not punching all this data and come up with a number. These are giving you the estimated numbers based on some numbers, some facts put into the system, but you are going to have to adjust. So you're probably pretty darn close And so those numbers, those properties didn't show up on this list, huh?
Which ones?
The
Let
ones
me see.
used for solds?
No, I don't think so. I don't see those. Let me see if I still have it in my notes.
I
One
mean-
of the other challenges I think was also the repairs. So I'll just tell you the person wanted 150 for the property. I thought that was a little high considering it needed some more work. So wait a minute, let me see. I saw a 2701. I think it was Woodmont, 1985, 1,200 square feet, sold for 213. 2903, sold for 177. 2613, sold for 195. And all of those were 2 bedrooms, 2 baths.
So I'm curious why they're not showing up in here as solds. There's got to be something. Give me the address again.
It might be the months that you have it on. I think Otis mentioned that his comps were from a year ago, and I see that ours are
There we
6
go.
months right
Right.
here.
Yep. See, this is, I didn't think to go back and look at let's go see what.
Yep, 2701. Down, right there.
Okay, sold at 188.
Okay, my record said 177,515. So that does make a difference. And then 2613.
Let's just go look at this real quick to see
Okay.
What this property looks like. Looks pretty nice.
Yes.
I mean, it's definitely not a fixer upper. You might want to do some updates, but I wouldn't call it a fixer upper. So 188. And what was the other one?
It's 2701, 2903, and 2613.
So just one point here. This particular one had no garage.
Okay. 2903.
Which one?
2903. If you go down a little bit. Yes. No, that's the one I had for 177. 2903. Okay, that one says 179, but I had 177,515.
Okay.
And 2613, I think we already did that one. 2903, 2701. Yeah, that's the one we already did. 2701. I thought we looked at that one.
Yeah, we did.
So I just looked at what was on the street.
Okay. So going back to my comment earlier about the red apple to red apple, if you can get deals down at the street level, absolutely. Because that street may be totally different than the street over back, right?
Right.
So, but that's a hard thing to do. So notice that this is a booming little neighborhood as far as sales go. You know, in the last, what did we do, 24 months, 18 months. So a lot of people jumping on that bandwagon and fixing houses up and selling them in this neighborhood. But you can see there's quite a mixed bag. A 1.5 1, 222, 220, 320, 322. You know, so there's a wide variety in here. I don't personally get too hung up over whether it's a 1 car or 2 car. To me, as far as values go, to me, that's a sellability thing. a 2-car is going to be a lot easier to sell faster than a 1-car. That's the way I look at it.
So we had gotten down, the seller originally wanted 150. I had gotten them down to, I think it was 122. And this is the property, you know, I told you they said they had an agent involved, but the agent said it's a off-market property or something like that. Yep. So I lost out on that one. But I think that, well, I don't think that would have mattered, you know, just kind of looking at it in retrospect. Even if I would have offered the 140, it was mostly cosmetic work. And for the vision I had, it was just going to be a rental. I wouldn't have made it as nice as some of the ones that you saw.
Right.
I was estimating maybe about 15,000 in repair on property, just, you know, incidentals, the whole nine. But he eventually pointed me back to that realtor, and I made the offer to the realtor, and the realtor was like, no, we're not going to accept it. So.
And that's what you're going to run into with realtors involved. You know, you might be able to negotiate a deal with a seller, but if there's that realtor involved, they're going to push back. And of course, their fiduciary duty is to look out for their seller, right? But also they're looking out for their paycheck. So you might be able to get it sold quick to them, with them, but that realtor wants to hold out for a higher dollar. So you don't want to get involved in a transaction where there's realtors.
Well, it was a mailing, and so the guy called me from my mail out. So the realtor, and that was my thing with the seller, I was like, what work did he do? I was like, you called me. And then when I looked it up on Zillow, it wasn't listed. You know, that's what we talked about at the last luncheon. So
now was that a 1-car garage that you're evaluating or no car?
It was a 1-car garage.
Okay. So what I'm trying to do is take out these the ones that are 2-car.
Okay.
Try to match this up to what you have. So it was just a 2-2, right?
Yes, sir. Two bedrooms, 2 baths, 1-car garage.
Okay. And notice there's only so this is a 1.5, not a 2.
So 2703, I think it said it was half a duplex. Is that red apple to red apple? 2703 right there, Woodmont.
Was yours a half a duplex?
No.
No, you're good eyeball there. I wasn't reading it that close, but you're right. Half duplex is not going to be the same comparison. So look where we're at now, though. By taking out, and the 2 1.5. So if that's a half duplex, that's not a good comparison. So 221. Changes the picture a little bit, doesn't it?
Yes, by a lot.
So, this was a really good example. I'm glad you brought this up. Because there was so many solds here, it's easy to overlook the specifics. You don't always have the same exact match as we talked about earlier. I would use in my comp a 222 or 221 or a 220. I would use that in my analysis if that's all I had. And then just adjust for it when I go make my offer. I hope that makes sense. You know, you're trying to get this data to pull together an idea of what that home is going to be worth. And, you know, for me, I probably look through it in a different lens, in that I've got 23 years of making offers and rehabbing houses. So I know when I see what they've done in their rehab, I know how my end result is going to be compared to what they're doing. So, you know, that comes into play too. And this, you know, the goal is to get to the exact match, but you don't always have an exact match. So fortunately, there was all of these in here, and there was, out of all of it, in Woodmont Edition, 221, that's what your house is, there's only the one match. It looks like there's a lot. Remember what we started with?
Right.
Bernard, it was way high compared to what we ended up with, right?
Right. Much higher.
Does this help, you know, your thinking on how to go through all this?
Well, I don't know. I guess that's where you have to tell me. So I was thinking, so my max allowable offer was going to be 122. Originally, I think I had told them 146. That was sight unseen, assuming that it was in good condition. But when I went to go see it, I was at 121. But that was me basing it off of the property being valued at 195. I said 200, but I thought 195, and they wanted to sell it for 150. I felt like well, I mean, you know, of course the circumstance, but had the circumstance been different, I didn't want to lose out because I overestimated on repairs. And
No,
I think go ahead.
And I have nothing wrong with that approach. I mean, what you don't want to do is go in and give them that initial offer, and have it be way too, let's see, just the opposite of what you did. You know, you don't want to have to go in there. If you said 200, you don't want to come back and say, oh, it's only 125.
Right. No, yes.
So you want to estimate a little high on your repairs.
Okay.
I can almost tell you that you're never going to walk into a house and find it to be less needed in repairs than what you anticipated. Because there's very few houses, unless they tell you that it's brand new or it was just totally rehabbed. In most cases, you're not going to be looking at those kind of houses, right?
Right.
You're looking at homes that need work.
Yes.
And they could tell you all day long that there's nothing needed. It's fine. It doesn't need any updates. And you're going to walk in there and the house is 60 years old and, you know, has never been touched. So let's go look at this one. The only one that was a good match, the 221. And let's look at the condition of it. Well, and this is a half duplex. So we missed this one too. So this isn't even a good match, right?
Right. Yeah. No, that's half duplex.
So, but yours is a house and it's in this subdivision.
Yes.
Okay. Well, then that's not even a good fit.
And I guess I was also like, once I refinanced with a lender, what would they say about it? I think that was, just trying to make sure everything aligned. I know it's not going to be perfect, but I just didn't want to be upside down or stuck. And I think you're absolutely right. The more you know about what is going to be valued at, that also helps you with your strategy.
Yep. So anybody have any ideas based on everything we just talked about and this list? What would you do next, since we were trying to do an exact match with the 221, trying to match exactly? We don't have an exact match. What's your next step?
Price per square foot.
Anybody else?
Go through CAD.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Okay.
look at the tax records and get some comparables off of that.
So you should do, that's correct. You should go do that regardless. So you know what the county's got it valued at. What I would start doing, since we have a pretty wide range here. Could we go back 24 months? We could, but that's kind of old data at this point, right? The way the market's been here. So could we could open this up to a mile and see if it brings in any more properties in Woodmont. And I don't think it did. It brought in a lot of these others. So the next thing I would do is I would come up here and I would start looking at these. Since he had a 221, I would start looking at the 220 and the 222s and see if they're a house or a duplex. This is the duplex. So let's just start marking these. Let's get rid of the duplexes. But I would start looking at these. Again, you don't always get what you want. You don't always get that red apple to red apple. We want it. Now that we know we don't have a good match, a 221, let's look at the 222s and see if there's one. So this looks like to be a home. It's a 222. So let's click this. Here's a 222. Oh, this is 3. Okay, I missed that back. So see, you got to look at this stuff closely. Let's take the 3 bedrooms out of the picture too. Now, what if you had a 321? It's not a 221, but it's a 321. I don't know that we have any. So I think we can take the 322s out of the picture. Here's a 222 house. So we can add that. Remember, we're trying to find a 221. Here's a 220. Let's skip that one for the moment. Let's stick to the 222s. Okay, there's a house. Here's a 2, 1.5. Could we consider this? This a duplex? Okay, so we don't want that one. This was a duplex, right? Yep. Okay. That's a duplex. Now this is a 3-1. I probably would ignore this. Could you come back and look at that? Yes. Now these are actually outside of Woodmont, so I'm going to take that back out of there. I'm going to get rid of. Okay, and then this. Why did we not check this one? Okay. So this is a duplex too, but notice. So you'll notice that realtors make mistakes too when they put stuff in MLS. You know, this is a duplex, but they got it entered as a single family. Okay, so now we're not using this one just yet. And that's another subdivision. So now we have 3. And now look at it. So how does this compare? You know, this sold in 5 days, pretty good price. Yes, we're looking at a 222. $14 days, 240. Single family home. Single family home, 3 days, 250. So I think we had a 240, 50, and 60. So that puts that sales price at 239. So, you know, and we can take this right out. So now you have 3 222s, not duplexes, they're homes. They're all in the same subdivision. And the only difference to your subject property is, you know, these are really close age. They're, you know, within a few feet in square footage. The only difference, real difference is they have 2-car garage instead of 1. Now, how's that make you feel, Otis?
Bad.
Should have pursued it, huh?
Right.
Anybody else got a comment? You know, again, realizing it's 239.6 based on having a 2-car garage. He doesn't have a 2-car garage.
So when we did the other comparison, because I think the other one, so is a garage worth $50,000? Because I think the other one was like 186 was the other one when we did the comparable market analysis before we started switching.
Yeah, I wouldn't value it at 50,000. But that, you know, that is a really good question that's probably worth asking a realtor. As a matter of fact, I'm meeting a realtor tonight at 5. I'm going to look at 3 potential rental properties. And I'll try and ask that question tonight. But, you know, I think you could maybe make them a reasonable offer on this house of, say, you know, 215, well, the ARV, I mean, you know, 215, 220 for a single car, and make up for the expenses by just not over rehabbing it, or make sure you rehab it properly and still be able to make money on that house. I think it could have easily made that ARV, you know, in the 210, 215.
Yeah, I still would have been at like 135, 137
Yep.
if I did you know, my repairs times 0.7 of the ARV of I think you said 215.
Yep.
So yeah. Now I did talk to I went to the DFW group and a couple of weeks ago, and they were saying they've increased their percentage from 0.7 to like 0.78 just because the market has been higher. Would you recommend that, or should we stick with 0.7?
So I'm doing 0.75.
Okay.
But honestly, I'm a little flexible in that number, depending on where the house is at and how much it really needs.
Okay.
But again, I'm doing that based on 23 years of experience. So I would caution any new investor from bumping it up to, 78% and then over rehabbing because you didn't quite know what to do.
Right.
Or you didn't have systems in place, you didn't have your teams in place to get on it, get it done, and get it gone, and your holding costs were sky high. So I would caution you with that. Yes, a lot of people have changed the discount that they're looking for, but there's plenty of people out there still looking at 60 cents on the dollar or less, the greedy ones. So it's a question for you and your business model, and what do you want to do, and how prepared and ready and comfortable are you with trying to move forward?
Mm-hmm.
Can you make a deal work at 78 cents on the dollar? The norm is 70, but it is a different market today, and you have to adjust to try and make it work. But don't do it at the risk of losing money.
Right. Well, I think it probably would have been tight, but so
the biggest thing that you can do is just have your systems, your teams in place, your rehab contractors, your roofers, have a plan for selling, all that stuff, and be detail oriented about your planning. Don't wait and close on it to go put insurance and electricity utilities on it, because you're stopping or delaying the start of the rehab. You want to have all these things in place, and have things scheduled like clockwork to get on it, because every day that you sit on a property is an expense.
Right.
Every day. And you may not think it's much, but if you're using hard money, that interest rate, the utilities, the taxes, the maintenance upkeep, the potential vandalism, all of those things cost money. The big rehab I did here in Weatherford that I just sold a couple months ago, it was the biggest one I ever did, and I was worried about going into it. So I because of interest rates had started to climb, and I was able to negotiate a good deal, which really saved me, because while I owned that house, there was 6 interest rate hikes.
Wow.
And I was just watching my buyers list shrink and shrink every time they announced another interest rate hike.
Mm-hmm.
But fortunately, I found the right buyers. The house was impressive when you walk in, and we put that wow factor in there. But again, I had things in place that made it go smoothly and quickly. well, it wasn't quick. It was the longest rehab I ever did, but it was 3,700 square feet. So it was a big house. Okay, so we're coming to an end here. Any questions? I mean, did this help the thinking, you know, and what to do if you have a difficult property? You know, on the surface, this one looked like it had a lot of comps for it, but when you get down to those details, and I don't remember who it was that caught it, but you don't want to overlook. You want to make sure you're comparing house to house, not house to duplex. You want to make sure as close as possible, a 2-2-1 or very, very close to that 2-2-2, you know, a 2-1-2, 2-1-1. You want something that's as close as possible, and then know that you have to adjust from that. And, you know, your point earlier, Otis, about, you know, making that offer sight unseen, that's where you want to make sure you have a good option period so you can make that offer sight unseen or make that initial offer. And then when during the option period, you come back here and refine it. Even if you missed it in your initial assessment, you missed that you were looking at a duplex instead of a house, or you know, compared a 2-2-2 against a 2-2-0, you know, or any other combination. At least during your option period, you have time to finalize your assessment and terminate your contract if it's necessary, if you offered too much.
I think I'll do better just doing them virtually, because, you know, once you set up you know, I like to meet people face to face, but I think sometimes if you just set the appointment virtually, I make the offer, and then like if they need a Zoom or something like that, I think I'm thinking about changing this model up a little bit. But like you say, just having that inspection period within the agreement, you know, that's fine, because I have that ejection clause if I need it.
So I have been doing offers via video. I've been actually recording my offer. And I do that using a PowerPoint presentation that I put together on you know, explain my credibility, who we are, what we do, that kind of thing, how we do the analysis. I do all that in a PowerPoint, and then I record that of me presenting it to them. And what I'm seeing is people like it because they can go back and replay it. And they see how I'm doing the analysis and how I come up with the comps, and I show them rehab costs. And so I'm not trying to pull the wool over their eyes. They're seeing everything, and people seem to like it.
I like that.
It's a little time consuming.
Have you seen your percentage of closing go up though?
I don't know. All I know is that I don't track in that kind of detail, Otis, but I think it's helped me. But the one thing it has helped with is, you know, I don't waste so much time on the road anymore, trying to go to and from, and
Right.
they have something to go back and play again instead of you just talking to them or just handing them a contract. So especially important on the creative deals.
I like that.
An easy, straightforward deal, cash, you know, not so important, but on the creative stuff, the video really helps.
I like that. I'm gonna give it a shot.
And I like to brag about my credibility. You know, 23 years in the business, A+ rated, Better Business Bureau, Google ratings, all that stuff. I like to brag about that stuff. So, okay. There's a lot of people on the call that haven't said a word. Has this been helpful? I mean, does this help the way you think about these and what do you know what to go do now when you don't find comps on MLS?
One 100%.
Good.
I did have one question, if that's okay.
Okay. If you'll speak up so I can hear it.
Yeah, sorry, it's the computer. Do you ever consider, I know area is key, but a lot of times these flips are in older neighborhoods, right? That are seeking improvement. But do you ever consider like what's going into those neighborhoods, like new development, things like that, when you're considering your comps at all? So say like they're building another development, 2 blocks down, that's gonna be brand new homes, and that's going into the future in the next year. Business, things like that. Do you ever consider those type of numbers
Well,
or situations?
I think, Diane, you have to consider all of the surroundings and what's going on. Do be careful though, depending on what you're trying to do with the house. If you're looking at something for a buy and hold or maybe keep for a couple of years for tax purposes and then sell, be cautious about any new builds next door or the next street over, because I ran into a problem a few years ago where the new builds were selling for less than my house.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, that could create a problem for you depending on what your finance situation is with that house, how you bought it. In my particular case, I bought this house subject to, and the seller wanted to get his credit back as soon as possible. And that could have potentially impacted me with these new builds. I mean, that's competition for my house, right? Who doesn't want a new house over a used house?
Like when making your offer, that's coming into the future. It could possibly be beneficial to you as far as making a lower offer on that house.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely does. The other one you want to pay attention to as well, and I think use it to your benefit, is searching on the registered sex offenders in and around the house that you're evaluating.
Yes.
And use that in your offer as you need.
That's what I've been doing, is like researching like crime, things like that.
Yep.
To kind of help get a better feel of how I want to present an offer on some.
Yeah, exactly. And use it to your benefit, and then
absolutely
have that be a part of your story and your presentation if there's any pushback on it. That, because that could impact, with today's technology, everybody's got capability to go see who lives next door.
Right.
And that may impact your ability to sell or rent fast at a price that you want, because people know that there's sex offenders there.
Yes. Okay.
So you definitely have to take that in consideration.
Yeah, that's what I did on this place. I did a lot of research before I settled on. I didn't say settle. Before I purchased this one.
Good.
So, it was research.
I would definitely recommend you create a checklist for doing this due diligence and have those kinds of things on that checklist, so that that's what you want to have, that's the kind of analysis you want to go with your comps. It's not just about the comps number. I didn't talk about that today, but comps are not just about the number that it sold for. It's also about all the details that the realtor writes in there about that house that caused it to get the price that it did, the days that it took to sell it. And you notice some of those properties are on the market 100, 200, almost 300 days. So, why is that? They got it sold, so you got a sold number, what went into that number. You don't want to just go by that number. You want to understand what caused them to get the number that they got. And, you know, long days on market, short days on market, probably is a difference in the neighborhood, a difference in the condition and the age and the style of the home, and probably the price. Okay, anybody else? Any other comments? I know most of you haven't said much, so I just want to make sure that, you know, this helps. We're going to be doing these types of classes on a routine basis because I've heard so many people comment about having trouble with comps or not understanding comps and how to do it, where to do it. I would, if you're interested in Propelio, I would recommend that you go to this link I'm going to share with you here, and you can go get a trial offer, 14 days for free, and a discount if you decide to use it. And if you come over here to the resources tab and the local resources, just right here, go watch this demo video right here. And it will show you how the tool works, all the things it can do, the benefits, the pricing, all that stuff. And you'll see that that is going to be a very powerful tool in your arsenal of tools. And like I said, it must be good. Think about it like this. A lot of the brokerage firms are providing this to their realtors to use for their analysis. So that must tell you something about the quality of the tool that it is. It's very simple and quick, you know, and we were going through it kind of quick today, honestly, but there's a lot of things you can do with it. And I think it's going to help you narrow down the true values of homes. And just remember, you know, you want to get as close as you can get to the apple to apple, red apple to red apple comparison, but that's not always possible. And you just saw it here, a lot of homes selling in one subdivision, but they're not all the same. And you have to make sure you pay good, close attention. Like, you say it is Lane, is that your name? Lane? Lane?
Yes, sir, Lane.
Thank you. Like Lane pointed out, you know, you got to pay attention to that stuff. A single family home is not the same as a duplex. So good catch there.
Okay.